Is Kyle Shanahan losing the team?
I'm going to
They
say
didn't play that hard this game. They didn't play that hard the last game. Nick Bosa's talking about they need to feel the loss and not act like everything's fine. That's kind of a troubling thing to say. I don't know. Year 8, defense is falling off. Is Kyle losing the team?
I'm going to say it's possible, but I think if most people watch that game, well, I'm sure some people wondering why Ronnie Bell was on the field. That's a Kyle thing. But I'm also thinking a lot of the team looks at that defense last night and wonders how the hell they could give up 27 points to that team. So it's impossible for to answer this question. Is it possible? Yes. Now look, Deebo Samuel says he thought he had the best roster in the NFL for the last 5-6 years, but they can't win the thing. So if you have the best roster in the NFL, but you're not winning Super Bowls, or you're losing to one of the worst defense in the NFL against the Rams, if you're a player and you really believe you have the best roster, but you're losing, I mean, what are you drawn to equivocate that to? It has to be coaching at some point. Now, I don't know if the game last night specifically would make them lose to Kyle Shanahan, because that game didn't really seem like it was on Kyle as much as the defensive coordinators, but Kyle put those pieces in place. He put Ronnie Bell on the field. I think if this continues this year, I think the answer will absolutely be yes. As of right now, I'm not sure if that's the case. I don't know.
It feels like he's losing the team. It feels like what happened to Harbaugh. And now it happened to Harbaugh faster. And I did think he lost that team. Maybe he could have rebuilt. It was year 4, and he's intense. Still, what I think happens is whatever message you're trying to impart on the team, just they don't hear it. Like this week, Kyle said, like, look, I mean, I tried to tell him the Rams aren't going to roll over. This is a desperate team. We're going to get their best shot. They were embarrassed last week by the Cardinals. Those teams are hard to face. And it seemed like the message just didn't get across. The Niners, I mean, according to Bosa, they just didn't feel that loss last week. And it seemed like the Niners thought they were just going to roll over on that the Rams are going to roll over, and they didn't. So Kyle tried to tell him. They didn't hear it. And now Bosa saying we got to feel this loss. Like, isn't that something that the coach would say? Isn't that, I mean, really, if he hasn't lost the team, his job this week is to be the therapist of the team. You guys aren't that bad. Don't get down on yourselves. Like, he has to get some confidence back into this team, because right now, they look shell-shocked.
Well, New England's a good way to do it. I think the 49ers are going to beat New England at home this coming week, so that'll help. But then they got to go against the Cardinals and the Seahawks that could pose some potential problems for this team.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. But again, like, this team isn't at the level where they can just be like, oh, well, we have the Patriots this week, we'll win. No, because that's what you thought the last 2 weeks. And the Patriots, no, they're not good, but they do have a good defense, and they did beat the Bengals. So they could beat you too if you do what you did yesterday. Not you, Ryan.
Here's the thing, man. What you posted a poll on your Twitter that I noticed I was surprised by. You asked the fan base, are they losing confidence in Kyle Shanahan? And I believe 69% said yes, which is, if you asked that question 2 months ago, it would have been the opposite.
I asked it after last week's game, and 55% said no, but it was pretty split. And then as far as this one goes, it's at 61% yes for Kyle Shanahan, and more than 5,000 people have voted. If you want to vote, it's on my Twitter, and there's 7 hours left to participate. Are you losing confidence in Kyle Shanahan now? Yes, 61%. No, 39%. Wow, it's week 3.
And I've seen it in my chats and in my comments on my videos. I'm seeing it in the chat today. Seems like a lot of fans are headed more in that direction than they've ever been. He still has a lot of support from a lot of people, but I feel like it's leaning more in that direction. And you would assume that the team, maybe not as high as a degree as the fan base, but you see the trend of the direction so far from the fan base. I imagine the trend with the team is going in the same direction. Again, though, I don't know if the whole team's just out on Kyle Shanahan, but if they don't do well this season, absolutely. But it's a long season, so we'll see. It's only week 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle, it's been 8 years. They've won a Super Bowl. Fans are frustrated, maybe the players too, but they also have been patient. And I think they've bought into Kyle's narratives. Like, it's not my fault we lost the Super Bowl. It's Jimmy's fault. Or it's not my fault we lost the Super Bowl. It's Steve Wilkes' fault. And I think fans are like, okay, we're on board with that. And now you can't throw another defensive coordinator under the bus. You can't throw Brock under the bus. So if you struggle, if you lose, fans are gonna put it on you, and there's nothing you can do. You can't say it's special teams. That's on you. It's Ronnie Bell. That's on you. Shouldn't have played him. Shouldn't have had him on the team. Like, it all goes back to Kyle, and I think fans are finally not like getting it, but I think it's all like it's the aha moment, kind of.
Yeah. Well,
Brock's good.
Brock's the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has ever had on the 49ers. So Brock's not the problem, right? And I guess if you look at a problem with this team, it's the defense and the O-line, parts of it, Jake Brendel, Colton McKivitz, but that's a Kyle Shanahan philosophy that you're seeing at work. So eventually you keep not living up to the potential of the roster. When you have a really good roster and you have a quarterback that's probably top 10 in the NFL, there's only one answer left, and that's coaching. And the coaches that he put in place, you can put it down to the coordinators. Well, those are the guys Kyle put in place. Ultimately, it all comes down to Kyle, and eventually you wear out your welcome. Kind of like how Harbaugh seems to do it quicker.
Yep.
But Kyle, I think at some point he will, and he has to win. He has to capitalize, and that includes with ownership. I know they extended him, and they've been thrilled and supported him thus far. But if he continues to do this, at some point, it reaches a point where you're like, all right, enough. And then a lot of people, the fan base will say, well, he'll be hired the next day. Of course he will. He absolutely will. But that doesn't mean he's the right coach for this situation right here, right? It's like when you have a girlfriend that's beautiful but toxic for you. She's not the right woman for you. Can she go get a new boyfriend the next day? Sure. But that doesn't mean she's the right person for you. And eventually that might be the situation with Kyle Shanahan.
I completely agree. And I think there are so many parallels to the 2014 team. 10 years ago, that team was coming off of 3 straight NFC Championship appearances. Plus, they had gone to a Super Bowl and lost. Very similar situation. A lot of that Super Bowl hangover and frustration. They start off 2014. If you remember, they start off in Dallas, week 1. In the morning of the game, Ian Rappaport says, Jim Harbaugh has lost the Niners locker room. And it's like, how? They haven't even played a game yet. They win. And he takes this whole victory lap, like why players have titanium in their spine, and we're such a great team, and we're all together, and that was a stupid report, and we're stronger than ever. They lose next week to the Bears. They lose after that to the Cardinals. They went and lost to freaking like Drew Stanton or something. So they dropped 2 in a row right after their big triumphant week 1 win. Then they get it together. We win 3 in a row. They're back. They lose 2 in a row. And they win 3 in a row. They're back. Then they lose 4 in a row. It was just that kind of a year. And I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go. We've seen the Niners pull out of it and go on these runs. But if this is the Super Bowl hangover year, then I could see them winning a couple, losing a couple, winning a couple, losing a couple.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.